Hello! So, development is coming back to Screep's World, and today I want to introduce a suggestion for an update which I am calling the Force Projection Update. This update aims to address two key problems. The first is that center room portals spawn unreliably, which basically means if you have a bot where you want to try and use these portals to cause chaos elsewhere, you can't really do so reliably because it might be a long time between you receiving portals in your particular sector that you live in. So that's the first issue. The second thing it's hoping to address is there's very few ways of actually breaking localization generally in Screeps. And what I mean by this is you have the location where your bases are, and if you want to project force like halfway across the map, yes, you can send resources there, but it's very difficult to actually move creeps there. And that's the two things that we're looking at today. So let's start with the center room portal changes. So what I'm suggesting is for a very small number of center rooms on each shard, like not many at all, have a new portal type and call it the static portal. Static portals never despawn, but their destination does change. And as a variation, a static portal can either be an intra-shard portal, which is on the same shard as its destination, or an inter-shard static, which basically means that the random destination will be on a different shard. So the positive effect of this is it will be good for portal using bots because you can guarantee that within this room, there is always going to be some kind of portal. And it also introduces a competitive area to control for those that want to exploit portals. Because these are hopefully going to be quite few in number, it means that players that want to use it will be fighting for control over that area. So it helps drive conflict into a very localized area, which is interesting. So, of course, it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and kittens. There are negative issues, and as I mentioned, because of this idea of creating conflict, statics are likely to be controlled by strong players, the ones who win over. And unfortunately, if they're controlled by strong players, they can unleash destruction over a wide area, and proximity is no longer a defensive measure, or lack thereof, I should say. So you could counter this by tuning the lifespan of a static portal such that they don't last too long, the max number of body parts that can pass through it until it changes destination. So if people are pushing too many creeps through, it changes, like it collapses. You could also consider, for example, a body size limit. So the defenders on the other side where the portal connects to have a slight advantage because only smaller creeps can come through. And those are just different ways you could potentially balance these issues. Okay, the next item, and what I'm going to talk more about, is the idea of breaking localization. And to do this, what I'm proposing is a new uncontrolled structure called a gateway. And the gateway is designed to be an easy way of moving creeps, but not resources, over long distances between gateways. And the reason for not resources is you don't want a system where you can basically bypass the terminal costs of sending resources, that kind of thing. So it's a balancing issue. And we'll talk about how that's going to be achieved later. So how it works. The gateway is a structure, as I mentioned, and there's multiple of them all across the world. And let's say you have gateway A that you're at, and you want to get to gateway B somewhere halfway across the map. So what you would do is you would fill gateway A with energy, you'll sit a creep to move on A, and then you'll call a method called gateway.connect, and then the ID of the gateway you want to go to. And assuming there's no issues, and we'll talk about what some of those issues might be, the creep will appear on top of B in the next tick. So it's basically moved from gateway A to gateway B. So just to highlight some of the behaviors, first of all, as I mentioned, it's a neutral structure with a limit of 1 per room, and it can only be built in highway and center rooms, which fixes issues related to, well, what happens if there's a rampart on top of a gateway, and also, like, what happens if there's safe mode, so two different players have creeps on the same gateway. I'd like to thank people for feedback on that. Yeah, it's quite helpful. It has a store where it can store energy only because it costs energy to use a gateway. And the gateway connect method will take as an input the ID of another gateway. You must have enough energy and own a creep on a gateway for it to work. The creep appears on the next gateway in the next tick, and carry parts, crucially, will drop resources when they jump, sorry. So you don't have to worry about bypassing the terminal cost of sending things, or especially with the new throughput limits, this isn't a way of getting around throughput limits or anything like that. So a jump will fail. As I mentioned, it's not always a guarantee. So it will fail if there's no owned creep on the gateway, so nothing to jump, basically. If the destination gateway already has a creep on it, you can't land on top of anyone. If there's not enough energy in the gateway to send it, or if another closer gateway connected on the same tick. So the closer gateway should take priority. So what I'm suggesting is there's an energy cost to sending creeps through gateways, which will scale with distance, but up to a maximum value. So the idea is that you should be able to get basically anywhere as long as there is a gateway at the destination. I'm proposing the structure does not decay. I don't see any good reason for it to decay, and because there's only one per room, it's not like you can flood a room with it. And it'll be quite interesting, even if a gateway's been dormant for a long time, someone might decide to use it. This may introduce sort of neutral wall trolling, but I don't see an issue with that. Basically, you have a gateway in a highway room and someone just absolutely surrounds it with 300 million walls, but hey, if someone wants to do that, why not? I was also proposing that you make the gateway quite expensive to build. It's quite a game-changing structure, and you don't want someone to be able to slap it down very quickly. So if another player in your sort of area notices, oh dear, they're building a gateway and wants to stop you because of the chaos it might cause, they're able to do so. Now, I'm also proposing that there's either no or at least a very short cooldown to its use. And the reason is the whole purpose of this is sort of like a forced projection sort of thing. And if there's long cooldowns between gateway uses, it won't really work to that effect. I have visions in my head of armies of creeps appearing through gateways, which would be very good fun. Okay, so yeah, the impacts of this is obviously you can move creeps very long distances and potentially help with attacking enemies, or help friends, or attacking enemies. It presents interesting warfare considerations. A gateway, once created, of course, can be used by anyone. So you might slap one down thinking, I can get to someone I want to attack, but conversely, people can then get to you as well. So there are trade-offs in that regard. So potential tactics, of course, coordinated defenses. So a large number of creeps can use gateways from your own rooms that are elsewhere, or friendly rooms if you're part of an alliance can send creeps in to help. And you can counter it by destroying the gateways near war zones. So go find the gateways and blow them up. If you want to attack a particular player and not let them get these sort of reinforcements. And, of course, my favorite one is for the Horde. The enemy player uses a gateway to send a huge army of creeps just for the fun of things. Again, it's countered by the same way, just blow up the gateway. I'd like to thank you all very much for listening. That's it for this suggestion, and I welcome any feedback. Thank you.